All right, so there was some news yesterday out of the PD region of South Carolina that gives an opportunity to address an issue that's very important. If you believe in transparency, if you believe in holding government accountable, and particularly holding law enforcement accountable. Now, regular readers, viewers, listeners, FITSNews are very well aware that we take a positive approach toward law enforcement. We are generally pro-law enforcement. We support additional funding for this core function of government. Again, public safety is a core function of government because without somebody protecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, those things are at risk. And again, in South Carolina, we see they are way too often at risk for any number of reasons, including judicial issues, judges who constantly put violent criminals back out on the streets. But anyway, we've addressed that issue very often here at FITSNews. But in supporting law enforcement and in supporting additional funding for law enforcement, it's also important to hold law enforcement accountable. And that means when cops are corrupt, we crack down on them. We call them out, we expose them, we demand consequences. Now, earlier this year, there was an officer-involved shooting in Florence County, South Carolina. And again, this was a situation where the officer was not out of line. The officer did what he was supposed to do. The officer had a gun pulled on him and had to take action, had to respond with deadly force. And in the aftermath of that shooting, the Florence County Sheriff's Office released the body cam footage from this incident. Now that's significant because under South Carolina law, even though a law was passed 5 years ago about body cam footage, there is no requirement for law enforcement agencies to release body cam footage from these incidents. No requirement. I can't get it as a reporter. You can't get it as a citizen. It's simply not something that's part of the public record. But Florence County took the important step of releasing that footage publicly. Now, in that case, it's worth noting that, again, it was a situation where the officer acted appropriately, where there was a legitimate threat, again, that required a response with deadly force. Now, let's fast forward to this week, where in the small town of Hemingway, South Carolina, there was a chase involving an officer with the town of Hemingway's police department. The chase began in Williamsburg County, ended about 8 miles across the border into Georgetown County. This chase ended with a car crash, and it ended with an officer-involved shooting, where a suspect was shot, fatally shot, by this police officer. Now, worth noting, the suspect in this case was unarmed, and that's significant. Again, not passing judgment yet. There's an active investigation into this shooting by the South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division. We're going to wait until that investigation is completed before we jump to conclusions, but I do think it's worth noting that the suspect in this most recent incident, which occurred, again, earlier this week in Georgetown County, the suspect there was unarmed. Now, here's why I bring all this up. This is the first fatal officer-involved shooting in the PD this year, one of the first in the state, and I think it's important for the law enforcement agencies that were involved in this particular incident to show the same kind of transparency that was shown in Florence County last month. And what that means, and I'm talking to the town of Hemingway Police Department, number one. I'm talking to the Georgetown County Sheriff's Department, which responded. I'm talking to the Williamsburg County Sheriff's Department if they were involved. I'm not sure if they were or not. But basically any law enforcement agency that was in any way connected to this incident, if they've got body cam footage, if they've got dash cam footage, if they've got any type of evidence related to this particular incident, they need to release it. They need to follow the lead of Florence, show transparency, provide for accountability, and let the public see what happened. Because again, until we get that, until every incident like this, the public gets to see what happened, then we're never going to have faith in the system. We're never going to be able to have faith in the system. So again, I would call on those law enforcement agencies in the PD to follow the lead of the Florence County Sheriff's Office and release the footage.